Greetings.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sharon.
Hello, Madam Mayor.
Hello, Bill. How are you?
I'm fine. Any better, I'd have to be bigger.
Oh, I missed everybody. I got rid of everybody. What did I do?
I can still see you.
Can you?
I can hear you. I can see Brent. I can see Jamie, Megan. I thought I better wear a tie today. It's getting close to Christmas, and you know, Christmas is a liberal idea. This is for Brent's benefit.
That's funny. I'm wearing this shirt for yours.
Well, I'm partly with you here. I got blue stripes.
Oh, okay. Okay. I might be wearing red. I'm not going to tell you where.
Not for this conversation.
Yeah.
We don't need to know.
No.
Fran has split the difference.
That's right. I've got red and blue.
Hi, Cindy.
Oh, sorry, I'm multitasking here at the last second, so.
We got two Cindy's. There's Alan.
Hi, Fran. How are you?
Good.
Hi,
And
Al.
Ray, hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Good.
You all.
Who all? There's a motley crew there.
It is a motley crew. Now, Megan, when is your last day with us?
My last day is December 11th.
Megan? Where are you going, Megan?
I'm going to the town of Arnprior.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I know the area
So-
well, so it's
I
Just
hope it's
down
a
the road.
high-paying job.
My
That's my
partner,
old alma mater. I was born in Renfrew, which is only 20 miles away.
I grew up in Arnprior, so familiar with
Oh,
the area.
did you?
The Renfrew Timberwolves hate the Arnprior Packers.
Oh, do they ever?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Kathy.
There's
How are
Victor.
you, Rick? Oh,
Good.
what happened? On meeting. Open it.
so Bill, you have been over at Burnstown quite regularly then.
What's that, sorry?
You would have been over at Burnstown regularly then.
Oh, absolutely, Burnstown, yeah.
That's where my wife came from.
Really?
Yes.
I have relatives buried in the Burnstown Cemetery.
Well, I think she does too.
My grandfather used to be river log drive master down the Madawaska River. Burnstown and Springtown were stopovers.
Okay. Well, they used to run the Burnstown General Store.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I've sold a lot of books out of the Burnstown book place there too. So I used to add them to my inventory and promote them. Small world, isn't it?
Certainly is.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Bill. You're wearing a tie tonight, Bill. It's probably
I am.
because Alan's on tonight.
I'm celebrating the liberal victory in the States.
That's good.
I think all he owns is red ties.
I guess so, Fred.
Probably.
Well, yeah, we got two guests. We got Alan and Ray on here, so that's probably why he wore it.
Yeah.
Afraid I was going to
Die.
Dress up for company.
Megan or Nikki, do we know if we have Elwin on the meeting?
No, just doesn't know.
Okay.
No, he hasn't shown up yet.
Okay.
Hi, Nikki.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm really good. The sun's shining. I hate that snow that's on the ground.
I agree with you.
Jeez.
Also waiting for Sherry.
You wouldn't say that, Bill, if you had a snow plowing business.
Well, you couldn't plow that. I went out with a snowplow. There's no frost in the ground. You can't plow. You can't do
No, I
anything.
know it. I know. I tried it yesterday with the ATV and it didn't work.
Michael's showing up as me, apparently. I think
Oh,
it's
yeah,
because I
look at-
shared my link with him. Or maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Three Cindy's.
Cindy, I'll be
I
in to
think
see
I
you
can
tomorrow. Cindy,
Rename Michael.
Cindy, I'll be in to see you tomorrow afternoon.
Perfect. I haven't lost the paperwork yet. It's on the corner of my desk.
Okay.
Just as long as it's after 1:30, because we have our seniors housing meeting at 12:30. Tom.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure if I'll be finished with Jamie or not.
No, you may be a little longer than that, so that's good.
Okay, it is 4 o'clock. I think we will start the meeting. I am going between iPad, telephone, and a book with all the pieces of tonight's agenda. So we're going to call the meeting to order. Cindy, are we live?
I'm going to defer that to Megan. She's
Megan.
running things at her end.
Okay. Can I ask Ray and Alan to turn your video off so we just have counselors on for when we do our vote? And maybe staff as well?
All but me, as the
Yes,
clerk.
I'll bet you.
As
It
the
makes
clerk.
it much easier for voting to do it that way. Did we hear from Sherry?
No.
Oh, there counts. She's just signing on now. Okay, so I guess we've got everyone except Elwin.
Okay, perfect.
So every place I have him on a motion, I'll have to change. Okay, all right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And our first item is approval of the agenda. And I have a motion moved by Bill and seconded by Victor. That council suspend the rules of the procedural bylaw to allow the public meetings to move to the beginning of the agenda after item number 5, mayor's remarks. And further, that agenda for the council meeting held on November the 24th, 2020 be approved as presented. Are there any amendments?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
There are a couple of amendments, and I'll, first one is under number 8, which is the staff reports. Item number M, dealing with the council meetings in December. I have provided more information on the resolution. Also, we have an 8.0 or 8.0 deeming bylaw report. Also, under new business, under number 15, we have the North Frontenac Little Theater, as well as the MUC committee.
Okay, you'll have to help me as we get to those. Okay.
I will, definitely.
Okay, so the motion is to move the agenda as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor? Councillor Sherry, your video isn't on and you're muted.
Yes, sorry, Your Majesty, I'm trying to get my video to work. It's unable to start for some reason.
Okay, but you're voting yes to that motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there any disclosure, pecuniary interest, and general nature thereof of any item on tonight's agenda by any member of council? Hearing none, we'll note that in a minute.
Fran? Yes,
Yes.
there are. Councillor Gowdy.
Oh, okay, Nikki, go ahead.
I have to declare conflict of interest on number 8, item C, under the finance report, as there's payables to my place of employment.
Okay. All right. So at that point, Nikki, if you could just shut your video off, you can continue to listen, but if you just turn your video off, that would be a good idea. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Once we get to that. All right. So I have a motion moved by Sherry and seconded by Cindy, that the minutes of the council meeting held November the 12th, 2020 be approved as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Let me see your hands. Motion's carried. Okay, mayor's remarks. Just brief remarks in that we're doing well in KFLNA with COVID-19. Last night we were down to 10 cases. Dr. Moore is still concerned that we need to be cautious and has moved us into yellow. Not huge changes, but there are some changes that Kathy will talk about later in some of the motions that we're going to be dealing with where the changes will affect. Community is doing an excellent job, and again, I think it's going to get tighter as we move on, but so far we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and it's showing. So congratulations to all the residents, businesses, and everyone. A good job. Does the Deputy Mayor have anything to add?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add? These days I just do Zoom meetings. I'm not out and about, so I can't talk about too much. Oh no, my iPad is getting low in juice here. So that motion, no, that was the mayor's remarks. Okay, now we are going to move to a public meeting, and I'm going to read you the details of a public meeting. The Council of the Township of Central Frontenac is conducting a public meeting under the Planning Act with respect to applications ZB0320 Roseneck for increase in water body setback from 30 to 50 meters for the retained lands of consent application B1920OS and ZB0420 to rezone the benefiting and retained lands from lot addition application B2220 Hinchinbrook from rural to waterfront residential. I will now ask the clerk to advise the method of which notice of the meeting was given and confirmation as to the date that notice was given.
Madam Mayor, I can confirm that the notices were mailed out to everyone within 120 meters of the properties on November the 2nd. Newspaper notices were published in the Frontenac News, the edition November 5th, and the notices were posted on our website starting November the 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Any person who wishes to receive a copy of the minutes of the public meeting, a copy of the report, or a notice of the passing should indicate their full name, address, and postal code and contact numbers to Kathy McMunn, CAO Clerk, at the contact information provided in the report. This information is also available on the screen, or we can put it on the screen later. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Central Frontenac before the proposed amendment being approved, adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decisions of the Council of the Township of Central Frontenac to the local appeal tribunal, local planning appeal tribunal. And they may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless the opinion of the tribunal, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The procedure for the public meeting will be as follows. The planner will be asked to explain the purpose of the public meeting. The applicant will then be provided with an opportunity to discuss the proposal. I will inquire if there are any persons present on our call who wish to make oral or written submissions on the proposed proposal. If so, you should announce your name and state whether you support or oppose the proposal, and Megan will go over how to put your hand up and be recognized so that you can speak. Should there be any other person wishing to make comments or ask questions about the proposal, they will be given an opportunity to address council. The applicant will also be given an opportunity to respond to issues arising from the public comments. Please be aware that all persons wishing to address the issues should direct their comments and questions through the chair. I would also note that personal information collected as a result of this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Municipal Act, the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, the Planning Act, and all other relevant legislation, and will be used to assist in making a decision on this matter. All personal information is defined by MFIPA, including but not limited to names, addresses, opinions, and comments collected will be made available for public disclosure to members of the public at the meeting through request and through the website of the Corporation of the Township of Central Frontenac. Questions regarding the collection, use, and disclosure of this personal information may be directed to the clerk. I will now ask Megan Ruckwell, Manager of Community Planning, to advise how members of the public can participate in the meeting. Megan will put up slides and to demonstrate how to do that. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When the meeting is open to members of the public, or if council has a question for the applicant, we'll ask that you use the raise hand feature to notify the mayor that you would like to speak. If you're connecting via a laptop or a computer, the raise hand feature is most likely located on the bottom panel of Zoom. If you're connecting via a tablet or smartphone, the raise hand feature may be in the upper left or right corner, and you may have to select the 3 dots to be then able to see additional features and select the raise hand feature from there. Once you have raised your hand, I will notify the mayor that you would like to speak, and at the mayor's direction, proceed to unmute your microphone. Please wait a few seconds after your microphone has been unmuted before speaking to ensure that we can hear you. If you're joining us by the telephone this afternoon, to use the raise hand feature, please dial *9, which will notify the chair that you would like to speak as well. Madam Mayor, we only have the 2 applicants on the line with us this evening. There are no additional members of the public. We also have the press.
Okay, so who's going to start with the application?
I can start with the first application if you'd like for the public meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. So the first application is ZB03-20, which is submitted by Mr. Frontenac. The application is to rezone the retained lands of consent application B-19-20-OS, which was heard at the October Committee of Adjustment meeting. The application is to rezone the lands from rural to rural exception zone 14 that'll have additional and enhanced setbacks that were considered by the Committee of Adjustment and included as a condition in provisional consent at the recommendation of Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. These setbacks include an enhanced setback, so from 30 meters to 50 meters from Bob's Lake for main structures on the property, as well as a 15-meter setback from top of bank. The 30-meter setback, the standard setback, will continue to apply to other wetlands or water bodies on the property as well. The zoning proposed permits for shoreline structures such as boathouses, docks, or gazebos that are permitted within the regular 30-meter setback to continue to be permitted within the enhanced 50-meter setback proposed. The applicant also submitted a letter requesting a reduction in the fees, which was briefly discussed at the Committee of Adjustment meeting as well.
Okay. Any questions or comments from any member of council? Okay, does the applicant want to make any further comments, or are they prepared to let stand the application? No hands
Mr.
are...
Frontenac, if you do have any questions or comments, please use the raise hand feature. We're not seeing any hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we can do a motion before we move to the next one. Is that the proper way to move this? So I have a motion.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Moved by Tom and seconded by Nikki that council receive public comments regarding the application to amend zoning bylaw Rosnick. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, the next one is Nolan Furlong. Megan?
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the next public meeting is for application ZB04-20, which was the property owner is last name is Nolan. However, the applicant's last name is Furlong. The application presented is to rezone the lot addition lands as well as the retained lands from the lot addition from rural to waterfront residential. The benefiting lands as part of the lot addition application are already zoned waterfront residential. So the lot addition lands and the benefiting lands will have one zone if this application is approved, as well that the retained lands are currently split zoned both rural and waterfront residential. So if the application is approved, both the retained, benefiting, and lot addition lands will all be zoned waterfront residential, which is the appropriate zone for lots of this size along the waterfront, and will ensure that the appropriate provisions are in place for water quality protection. The applicant also submitted a letter requesting a reduction in fees, which is considered later on in the agenda as well.
Okay. Okay, any questions or comments on this application? Is there anything the applicant would like to add or ask?
The applicant is on the line, but I do not see them using the raise hand feature.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion then. The motion is moved by Cindy and seconded by Brent. That council received comments regarding the application to amend zoning bylaw Nolan Furlong. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay. Now we go to item number 7, the deferred items.
There's none.
Sorry, no, I've got to read my little ending of my public meeting here. Let me just go to my other piece. Okay, the public meeting is now concluded. I would remind any person wishing to receive additional information to provide their full name, address, postal code, and contact numbers to Kathy McMahon, COO clerk, to the email address or phone number that is on the screen, but we just have the 2 applicants, so I don't think we need to put it up on the screen. So that concludes the public meeting. That's one piece of equipment I don't have to handle anymore. Okay, now we're going to move on. There are no deferred items.
Correct.
Okay, staff reports. The first is development services. And I have a motion. That's Andy's bailiwick. The motion is moved by Tom and seconded by Cindy. Whereas council deferred resolution number 386 on November the 10th, 2020, regarding the recommendation of the manager of development services, CBO, to keep the community halls closed and consider reopening at the January 12th, 2021 council meeting. And whereas the government of Ontario placed KFL&A Public Health in the yellow protect level of the provincial COVID-19 response framework as of Monday, November 23rd, 2020 at 12:01 a.m. And whereas the community halls are considered under sports and recreation, as well as meeting and events, which means safety plans are required within 7 days. And whereas staff are seeking further clarification from KFL&A Public Health on guideline compliance and whether we are required to have a safety plan for each hall. Now, therefore, it be it resolved that staff will bring back a report to council at the December 8th meeting with further recommendations and criteria. Again, it's a moving target these days. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, I can mention this is one of the items that we had to make an amendment to, and certainly with the resolution, because of the change with the KFL and Public Health. And we know safety plans are a requirement, so we need to further find out if we need them for, and just because it was yesterday, it didn't allow us enough time to get the answers as to whether or not we have to do one for every hall or if just one will do. So we will bring it back to council, and Andy's doing the review between myself and him.
Okay. Bill, did you have a question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I was simply going to say that if the if the information before us was the same as the last meeting, I would have voted against reopening them, given the change in conditions that we've been met with in the last week or so. So I'm glad to see this being promoted or postponed until the next meeting, because at this point I could not vote in favor of opening the halls. So I look forward to the new report. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. All right. Next we have Fire and Emergency Services. I have a motion moved by Bill and seconded by Sherry that council receive for information the CFFR activity report. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Just have one little comment, Madam Mayor, if I may. It just,
Sure, go ahead, Jamie.
It just came out this afternoon. I just wanted to let council, and I've already shared it on our township Facebook page and the Central Frontenac Fire and Rescue Facebook page. The Ontario Alert system will be doing a test tomorrow at 12:55. So that's the notification system the province uses to notify residents of emergencies or in the province, and they'll be testing their system tomorrow. So everyone's cell phones will be ringing at 5 to 1.
At least it's in the afternoon and not in the morning. Bill.
That's right. That's right.
But Jamie will, through you, Madam Mayor, I think that'll be in the middle of our Zoom housing meeting. What's the action we have to take to turn off all of these alarms if they happen in the middle of the meeting?
They'll go off on their own.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. The only way you can silence it is turn your phone off.
Right off. Power it down. Okay, let's move on. We have Finance and Treasury now. I have a motion moved by Victor and seconded by Tom that council approve the check distribution reports totaling $996,662.59 as prepared by the treasurer. And Michael is there if we have any questions. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. We have a motion moved by Brent and seconded by Nikki that council approve the following apportionments of assessments as recommended by Impact for 2020 as applicable for the following roll numbers. And there's a ton of them. Trying to get everything in before the end of the year, I would say. Any discussion?
We just put them in as they come in.
Okay. All those in favor? You see your hands, folks. Okay, motion's carried. That was number 8. Okay. Another finance motion. Moved by Brent and seconded by Nikki that council approve the following reduction of assessments pursuant to the Municipal Act. Roll number 1039-040-60, 112,000, Town and Country Electrical Contracting for the period of March 20th to December 31st, 2020, as reported by Impact, reason raised by fire, demolition, or otherwise 357-1DI. Roll number 1039-040-020-02941, Kilpatrick Catherine for the period of January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2020, as reported by Impact, raised by fire, demolition, or otherwise. And further, that council approve an adjustment of taxes to be calculated by the tax department for the related period. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, it's Victor.
Yes, go ahead, Victor.
Yeah, I just have a question to satisfy my curiosity mostly. With the Kilpatrick one, that was demolition. So she was demolishing a cottage and planning to build another one. Has she started or completed the building of her new cottage? I just, that it was from January 1st, 2018. And I would hate that we were giving her relief on taxes when she didn't deserve it.
This is one that was OMB hearing, I believe, or yeah.
So I would double check with Aaron, but my understanding, if I recollect, because I didn't refresh my memory for today, unfortunately, Councillor Hayes, but that a supplemental had already come for that one. So I thought that she had already built, but I will verify that with Andy and Aaron.
So if she has already built, should she be getting relief?
If the cottage was not there for those years, yes.
Yeah, and I think Andy's on the line, so.
I can answer the question through you, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Andy.
I have not conducted an occupancy inspection or a final inspection on that cottage yet.
But she has built, Andy?
They were working on it. I'm sure it's pretty close to being completed at this point.
So MPAC will go out, and when it's substantially completed, they will issue the supplemental, and then they will be billed back to the date that is.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, we have another one. It is moved by Cindy and seconded by Sherry. That council approved the treasurer to transfer from reserves up to $696,754 for part of the road pulverization project versus taking out an external loan as originally approved in the budget. This loan from revenues will be paid back to reserves by Public Works evenly over a 3-year period starting in 2021. Not unusual to borrow from our own reserves. Any discussion? Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just felt that this is a loan that we could handle ourselves and save our loan borrowing limit room for other capital projects that may be not less important than this or more important, but it would just give us that room, and it does save a tiny little bit, which is nice, but also selfishly, it saves a lot of administration time and frustration in dealing with IO and the lawyers and a little bit of cost there as well. Thanks for the smile, Victor.
Sure. Bill?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to Michael. Michael, by doing this and taking the reserves out of the reserves, does it limit our borrowing ability in the future over the next couple of years, because we've actually lowered our assets that are available for immediate use by doing this?
So through your worship to Councillor McDonald, it will increase our borrowing ability over the next couple of years from external loans, and at that point we can pay the higher interest rate. We will again forego interest in our bank account. Not sure I'm hitting all of that question there, but it increases our borrowing limit capabilities outside.
Okay.
Okay, and Brent?
Michael, can you just remind me, I think we're on the verge of paying off, if we haven't done so, the borrowing on Waggerville?
Through your worship to Councillor Cameron, yes, October 18th was the Fifth Lake Road loan was completed. So we have 2 more loans, the fire equipment and the public works equipment loan that was taken out in 2018 that will be finished in 2023. So the numbers are a little bit higher than I would like over the next few years. We don't actually have a debt policy, which has been my intention to get to for 2 or 3 years now. But anywhere between 25 to 40% is really where my comfort level goes, and we are approaching those numbers. And then depending on what we do the next couple of years, so yeah, the percentages that I've calculated and looked at, we would be at 32% if we don't take out. So 32% of what our borrowing limit is. If we don't take out the pulverization loan, if we do, we'd be at 44%. So that's where my comfort level really starts to get pushed. And if council said take it out, we would take it out. But that's my, those are my thoughts on that. Thank you, Councillor Cameron, for the question.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Michael, you're staying on, aren't you?
Correct, yes. I want you to be able to see my pretty face again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion moved by Nikki and seconded by Bill that council agrees to extend the existing license agreement with the province of Ontario through Infrastructure Ontario for the provision of OSO halls for court services 1 day a month for a further 5-year term on substantially the same terms and conditions as the original license, as extended by the non-binding letter of offer dated November the 10th, 2020. And further, that council delegate authority to the CAO clerk to finalize the terms of the license extension and sign the documentation to extend the license. Court's not in session these days, is that right?
That's correct, it is not.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, moved by Bill and seconded by Brent that council pass a bylaw later in the meeting to authorize the mayor and the CAO clerk to enter into a lease agreement with Fisheries and Oceans Canada to extend the lease of the Crow Lake and Sharbot Lake government docks for a further 5 years, starting April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2025. How life flies, eh? Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion's carried. Motion 13, administration. Moved by Victor and seconded by Tom, that council receive the update from the Economic Development Committee for the Downtown Revitalization Plan for information. Any discussion? Has everybody filled out their survey? Good. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Motion 14 is
We're ready, Madam Mayor. We're ready for the presentation for Ray and Alan.
Okay, Ray and Alan, we'll let you take over the screen.
Yes, could you give us the screen, please?
Megan?
Ray, I believe you have the potential to screen share already if you click the green screen share at the bottom.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we were asked, well, back in the spring, I think, or maybe late 2019, we were asked to have a look at the potential of expanding the your township offices. And one of the program elements that was going to go in here was the, I think there was a desire to get the council chambers in there and to provide 16 fixed enclosed offices and some areas of open workspace. We discussed a kind of a building functional program with Kathy and Andy. Alan Revel is involved, and this is the plan we came up with. We see this as a kind of practical way to add on to the building to provide those program pieces that I've just gone through. Just to give you a little bit of orientation, north is to the bottom of, roughly north is, let's call north the bottom of the page. So west is out here where the cars are. East is the library below you here. And south is where your green space is. There's a bit of a woodlot in behind you there, and this is where your septic system is currently located. Existing building. So the existing building, I'm going to, excuse me a second here. I'm going to just, this might be a little easier to see. The existing building right now is located here. And that represents, I believe, by our calculations, approximately you have about 4,100 square feet within that building. There are a series of offices, a fairly sort of circuitous circulation routes in there. I think your main entrance is located somewhere in this area here. The proposal here is to add a fairly simple block onto the west side of the building, provide some on-site parking on the west side, and that this comes to approximately your property line. Your property line is about shown here on the west side of this parking lot. Your main entrance is currently here. We're looking at relocating the main entrance to this location, providing an accessible entrance there and a reception area in a portion of the existing building, which would be renovated. Behind that reception area is a workstation, and the remainder of the existing building would be washroom facilities and offices, open workspace for staff. The main entrance foyer would have direct access to a barrier-free washroom, which would include the current code requirements for a barrier-free washroom. One of those is an adult changing station. Directly adjacent to the foyer would be the new council chamber, which is approximately, I think, 1,200 square feet in area. The council chamber would be adjacent to the lunchroom and a small meeting room here, which would be used by council, can be used by staff during the day. There would be a separate councilor's entrance coming in from the parking area on the west side of the building. A stair down I neglected to mention, talking about putting a full basement underneath this as well and connecting it to the basement of the existing building. We would have a stair to the basement there. There will be a requirement to have 2 stairs out of the basement because of the size of this building now. But you'll have easy access to the basement for, anybody coming in to do work on the building. You'll just be able to pop in here and go downstairs. But the staff would enter this same location. This would be, a quick jaunt to the staff kitchen. This is another area of closed offices with an open office workspace and some larger offices on the end of the building facing south. And these offices would be allocated based on your sort of hierarchy of staff here, I think. So this addition is approximately 3,700 square feet in area, new construction here. And as I mentioned, a full basement below this. So just, that's given you a sort of a taste of what the inside of the building looks like. And I'm just going to show you around here what the perimeter of the building is. So we'll start just looking at the top view. As you can see, the existing building beyond here. This is the addition on the west side. Simple shed roof with some stone cladding on the facade, and these are the recessed areas here. We'll see close-ups of these in a moment, but recessed area here for the councilor entrance and staff entrance, and then windows into the staff offices. This is a view looking at the new entrance, and this is how we would, showing you how our strategy sort of rolls out for connecting the roofs of the existing building. You have a particular roof configuration. There's a hip roof on this end of the building. We'll have to augment the roof with some additional wood framing and make this nice clean connection into our addition. This would be a ground view of the new main entrance, the public entrance. There would be a ramp and a concrete pad with a stair. Coming in, a new main entrance airlock, if you will, underneath an extended canopy here. And we would do some repairs over here where the existing entrance has been removed. In terms of cladding, the new building would have a stone base. We're thinking of a limestone or granite base on the building. And this is a fiber cement cladding on the roof of the building. If you want to know what I'm talking about, go and look at the Sydenham Library project we did in Sydenham a few years back. This is the same material we're using there. Basically the same combination of materials we're using there. This is a view looking from the northwest. Again, here's the cladding. This is a window. This is into the council chamber. Another panel of stone. This is the recess for the 2 entrances, the councilor and staff entrance. More stone panels and windows. This is a view from the south west. Again, councilor's entrance, staff entrance. These are windows into the private offices and larger windows on those 2 end offices on the corner or on the end of the building. around the back, you'll recognize this. This is the library. This is the entrance that comes into your exit that comes out of your stairwell now on the south side of the building. This would be a hard surface here, which we might expect staff to use outdoors in good weather for taking breaks and for having lunch, perhaps. You can see the parking lot beyond the building there and the windows for the private offices. You can see that dramatic sort of level change on the property coming down to the library entrance here. Inside the building, certainly much more spacious interior. We've had some discussion about how we'd actually handle these walls, and I think there may be a desire to have a little less glass in these, but the idea would be to bring the natural light from the exterior of the building into this interior shared office space and provide our familiar now barriers between the workstations, the open workstations. Sorry, that view you're just looking at, this would be the renovated existing building. So you can see what I think one of the things we showed on that bay window that's above the library would be used as that area there would become a meeting room, a staff meeting room. And that's what we're illustrating here. This is a view in the new wing of the building, again, perimeter private offices, open workstations, and the two larger offices facing south at that end. The new lobby, much more spacious than your existing lobby. These represent the doors to the council room, the council chamber here. The desk would have a plexiglass or glass screen in front of it. It would be accessible for people using mobility devices. In behind that desk is a large sort of workstation for staff. So staff at the desk can deep back, work in there, and they'll be able to, through the use of some transparent screens, be able to see who's in the lobby and needs assistance at the desk. And this is the council room. We because of the geometry of the roof of the building, we can get a higher ceiling or cathedral ceiling, if you will, in that room. And our idea at this point is to use a lot of wood in this room, in the ceilings and the backdrop for the council horseshoe. This room, as we've designed it here, this room seats, you're looking at about 30 chairs in that space right now. And there we are. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions. We've got an idea of how much all this might cost. Of course, I'm sure that's the first thing on your minds. But it's been an interesting process, and I'd just like to stress at this point we've done. This is what I'd consider to be a kind of conceptual design for the building. There would be a lot more work to do if this gets a green light to do a lot of detailed planning with your staff and yourselves, and make it just the way you need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. I've had technical difficulties, so I'm on the phone. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know, Alan, if Alan has anything to, do you have it? Maybe Alan has something to add, Fran, I'm not sure.
Okay, Alan?
Well, thank you, Your Worship. So one of the things that I think we've tried to illustrate is the meeting requirements for COVID-19. So there's a great deal more space and access requirements that we will accommodate in this design. And one of the things that would be most crucial in any grant applications for this project is the ability to meet some of those requirements, not only for COVID, but any future needs to have spacing requirements. So you'll note that through both the entrance and the hall spaces, where there's a fair bit of space between all the workstations, and the aisles where people are going to be walking by. So we're trying to meet that 2-meter distance separation throughout the building, and that will form the basis for one of our grant applications. And also you'll note on those workstations in the hall, that's to accommodate itinerant building inspectors who show up at your door from time to time.
And we have, yes,
Alan, it's Tom here, Alan. The park space that you show there, Alan, sorry.
Yes.
It's Tom. With the parking spaces that you show there, would additional spacing be across the road where it currently is for parking? Because out in front for your visitor parking doesn't look like a lot, but I suspect that we would still have that lot used across the road, right?
That's correct. That's in the plans, and
yeah,
there is about 38 feet. Once the building is constructed, there's about 38 feet to provide 38 to 40 feet to provide for that parking aisle and spaces on the that Ray is showing there for you. So,
through Madam Mayor, Bill here.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know who wants to answer, but I have a 3-part question. Number 1, inside the offices there where the glass partitions are up there, would those be movable, or would we be able to put some kind of thing where you'd actually be able to conduct a meeting in privacy? That's the first part. And would we need to vacate this building if we got the green light while the construction period was on, and what would the time frame for the reconstruction be?
I can, through you, Your Majesty,
yes, go ahead.
If I can answer the second question. I think because we're adding this building on to the existing building in this way, there would be, I believe there would be a way of staging this so that we could build the new construction and perhaps move. We haven't looked at this very carefully, but in a sort of basic principle of this is we could move you in there. You almost have as much space in this building as you have in your existing building. It might be possible to move you in here, at least partially, while the renovations on the existing building take place. We've done this before. It takes planning, but it possibly could be done. The first question about the movable partitions, I don't think we had anticipated or looked at these as being movable. These would be fixed in place. We're looking at, you know, you would have access to meetings within that room there. You can all see that cursor there?
Yes.
And this would be used during the day when council doesn't have use of that room. And also, you know, impromptu meetings can take place in the lunchroom as well. So you have some facilities for that type of thing. But I think to answer the question about the movable partitions, we had looked at these being fixed in place.
Ray, the other point associated with that we discussed at our last meeting was we may look at having the amount of glass in there, and would have the opportunity to put interior blinds in if we chose to provide that privacy if that was required. But that's certainly another option to consider.
Right. If I may, through Madam Mayor, just complete, I won't have any more questions, but I want to make a comment. Through my life as running for the MPP position, I have visited every municipal office in all of Eastern Ontario, I think, at least 20. And I think it's time we did move forward and actually have an actual council chamber in our municipal office. I can't think of anybody else at this point in Eastern Ontario that holds council meeting in a town hall. But anyway, I'm looking forward to any further information.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's Victor.
Go ahead, Victor.
Yes, I'd just like to congratulate Ray and Alan. This is very beautiful drawings here. It seems a little bit like almost like a fantasy. And it must be a fantasy because what I noticed was there's audience members in the council chamber. So a little unbelievable.
Build it.
And to make it, I asked Victor, I asked Ray to put people in the council chamber so you would be able to see them in there.
Good point.
Someday we'll be back at that, hopefully soon, sooner than later, maybe.
Yes, and
Okay.
also when you talk about the end, when Ray was talking about my office will be one of the ones at the very back.
With the escape door at the back, right?
You got it. Anyway.
Okay. Are there any more questions or comments? If not,
Madam Chair, I realize that you
yes,
can't see anymore. So Councillor Cameron does have a question.
Oh, I can see. I've got my video. I've got my computer up, but voice is on my phone. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Cameron. Oh, I can't see.
Thank you,
them now.
Madam Mayor. First of all, thank you for the work that went into this project. It's a beautiful rendition, and certainly it addresses a lot of issues that we have that staff have to deal with on a continual basis. We have a very small facility, and we're doing a lot of things out of it. And, you know, from my standpoint, the fact that we have people working in very small, tight conditions, you know, aside from the COVID issue, just the fact that in order to be efficient and to be productive, you need more space. And also filing space, just the fact that staff need to be able to get their hands on things, and we need to have a lot of storage area. I have to say, maybe it's the ambition of it that makes me nervous, because there's a price tag with this, and you know we're also mindful of the fact that the ability of people to pay for these projects is fairly limited. I don't want to get too much into that, because I don't want to presume that there wouldn't be funding available. And I would certainly hope that grant applications would be successful and defer that. I understand and appreciate. I mean, probably the least interesting of it to me is actually the council chamber. I'm more interested in staff having a good, effective workstation where they can be productive and be safe. And again, I'm hopeful that we're able to tap into some infrastructure money from the feds and the province, because not knowing how much this is going to cost, I can't think it's going to be cheap.
Good points, yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'm going to read the motion. And the motion is moved by Cindy and seconded by Sherry that council receives a presentation from Ray Zybek and Alan Revel on the proposed addition to the municipal building, and further that council provide input on the proposed drawings and authorize staff to continue working on this project and to discuss allocating monies in the 2021 budget. I believe we've been allocating monies each year towards the renovation, so this would be a continuation that we'll discuss at budget time.
Correct.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Can we take the, there we go. All right, now put your hands up, I can see you. Motion's carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good presentation, even though I got booted out and had to come back in a different door. All right. Next on our agenda is Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. So moved by Nikki and seconded by Tom. Whereas the province announced Ontario COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream funding to build or renovate health and safety related projects in long-term care, education, and municipalities. And whereas the fund allocates $250 million for Ontario municipal infrastructure projects with an 80-20 federal provincial cost share and no municipal cost match. And whereas our municipal allocation is $100,000 for this new stream, which can be used towards municipal administrative buildings. And whereas applications for single projects must be submitted to the province by December 21st, 2020. And whereas staff are recommending to council that we apply for this grant, which can be allocated to the construction of an addition and/or retrofitting of the existing municipal building. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Central Frontenac authorize staff to submit a grant application to the COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream funding. Discussion.
Go for it.
All those in favor? Motion's carried.
And Alan will be helping us on working on this as well, and Ray. And I think Michael did finally got where it was able to pull off the application form. So at least we'll get started.
Good. Okay. Excellent. All right. Let's move on to our zoning bylaw amendments. Motion moved by Brent and seconded by Cindy. Whereas pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Municipal Act RSO 1990, the Council of the Municipality may enact bylaws relating to the use of lands and the erection of buildings and structures thereon. And whereas the Council of the Township Central Frontenac considered all written and oral submissions received on this application, the effect of which helped Council make an informed decision. Therefore, be it resolved that Council received the zoning bylaw amendment application ZB0320 Rosenac public meeting and amending bylaw report, and further that Council of the Township of Central Frontenac consider the amending bylaw under agenda item bylaws and agreements, and further that Council agree to rebate the applicant the amount of, and I need the mover and seconder to suggest an amount. What amount would we like in?
Who was the
Go
mover and seconder?
It was Brent and Cindy. The staff have a recommendation.
Yeah, would it be possible to get a recommendation from staff and a rationale, a justification for the number?
Okay. Kathy or Cindy, who would like to take that one?
I'm not sure if I was not in attendance at the certainly I think that the Committee of Adjustment, from what I understand, and maybe and certainly Megan is on the line, I think still in regards to this application. It was one thing as part of I don't know if it was a minor variance or severance, so we need clarification on that. I just want to also to just caution council when it comes to the zoning bylaw, and I realize that these people want a rebate, but we have to be very, very careful of repeating things like this, because it's going to have a ripple effect for ones to come. I don't know, and Megan can answer this. I was thinking this would be more apt to, at the Committee of Adjustment, is to, instead of rebating them, is maybe that this zoning bylaw amendment for these applications with the proviso that they take place once we've gone through the official plan. And then once the zoning bylaw comes into place, that we would add these onto it instead of making, instead of having to pay the full fee of these applications. But that's just my thoughts. So maybe Megan can clarify further.
Megan, for sure. I can speak to this. And I did speak actually earlier with Deputy Clerk Cindy, and we discussed the costs associated with processing the application to be able to give council some information. So in terms of the Planning Act and the fee set by Township Council at this stage, so it is $2,000 for a rezoning application. However, under the Planning Act, there are provisions in place for councils or approval authorities to reduce that fee when they see the time is fit. It is common in a number of municipalities, and something that planning staff will be bringing forward, that there is a recommendation that zoning bylaw amendment applications that are a condition of consent be at a reduced cost, because typically these applications don't take as many planning resources to process, as we've already gone through the application process once. So there's no second site visit required. The applicant's already familiar with the requirement for placing notice cards. Typically, there's no additional comments coming in from the public, as they're more straightforward applications, as opposed to, let's say, an application for a multi-residential building or an application for commercial use that tends to be much more contentious and has more public inquiries and comments. So I would say from a planning staff perspective, we spent about 50% of the time that we'd normally spend on a rezoning application as part of processing this. However, there were still the standard administrative costs associated with the application, such as the fee for posting in Frontenac News, as well as the mail out to all property owners within 120 meters of the property. So I don't have a numerical value for council, as that's your decision, but I would state that the application fee itself was $2,000, and about 50% of the time that we normally take to process an application was used, and there are still the standard fees, such as admin fees associated with the reports as well.
Okay, Bill, did you have a comment?
Yeah. I remember the discussions that took place at the Committee of Adjustment and the fair, and we didn't actually make a recommendation. We let it come through to the bylaw form. But I would make a recommendation that we would agree to rebate the applicant an amount of 25% of the value, given the fact that we still had to go through staff time and all the rest of it. So that would be my recommendation. Maybe somebody else will disagree or agree.
Okay, Brent?
Well, actually, I would concur with Bill. Again, we talked about maybe looking at a 50% saving, and then you had said that there were some sunk costs that would knock that number back up. 25% seems reasonable. And if my seconder is up for that, I'm willing to put that in the motion.
That was Cindy.
Yeah, I agree. I think 25% is fair.
Okay, who's done the math? What's 25% of 2,000?
$500.
What's 500?
Yep.
Madam Mayor,
so
if I
we're
may.
reducing it. Yes, go ahead, Victor.
Yeah. So Victor here. I remember the discussion as well, and I'm a little uncomfortable with 25% because essentially we forced this amendment. We didn't. There was another option which would have had very low cost, and I think that was like a development, the planning.
Yeah.
A development agreement, I think is what it's called. And so that would have had very minimal cost, but we forced them to go through the amendment process because RVCA recommended it. So to give them $500 back when, you know, it was, there was a cheaper option. I would prefer something like 50% off. Thank you.
Okay. So we're talking $1,000 off or $500 off. Which is it?
I'm okay with 500.
Okay, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with either one. I think that I would like to see if there's a consensus on the number. 500 is my default, but again, this may be the cheaper. There may have been a cheaper route, but it wouldn't have been a free route. So I think we need to find something that strikes a reasonable balance. I'm open to Victor's suggestion, but I really would like to see where everyone's heads are at on this.
Okay, Tom and Nikki?
Sorry, Your Worship, but I wasn't at the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, so I'm not really sure of the background on this particular application. I mean, we're splitting hairs here again. I hear what Victor says, I hear what Bill says, and Brent. It sounds like we forced them into something that probably they didn't have to do. I would have no problem giving them back 50%, which would be $1,000.
Okay. Nikki?
I think, again, you're setting a precedent, and I think going on the lower amount is better than going at the higher amount. So I'm on the 500 end.
Okay. So we've got 2, 3 at 500 and 2, 3 at 1,000. Victor?
Yeah, just a further comment to respond to Nikki's comment. We are not setting a precedent here. This is something that we have forced on them through the request of Rideau Valley, and that's not going to happen often. So they didn't want to do a zoning amendment. We forced it on them, and that's why I think we should give them as much credit as possible, rather than sort of penalizing them for something that Rideau Valley forced our hand into the decision that we made. And just to comment to Tom, the reason for this, there were 2 options presented to the Committee of Adjustment. This is Bob's Lake, which is a protected lake, at capacity trout lake. And so Rideau Valley was asking them to move their main building back to 50-meter setback. And the concern was if we just did a development agreement, and then if the property was sold, that development agreement would not reside with the title, whereas a zoning amendment would reside with the title, so a future owner could not move their building forward. And that was the way to make sure that nothing could be built within that 50-meter setback. But the only way to do that was a zoning amendment. And so we forced these people to do it. And I feel uncomfortable charging them a lot of money for something where the development agreement would have been quite cheap as the other option.
Thanks, Victor.
Can I ask a question? In regards to any of the development agreements should be registered on title because they have been in past. They would be registered on title, and a lot of, I can't remember how much dollars was, but I know in some cases, the folks paid for the registration, the lawyer to prepare all that. So they're probably costing them anywhere between $400 and $500 anyway.
Yes, so and we recognize that there was going to be a cost. I'm not saying that the development agreement was going to be free, and it was also commented at the Committee of Adjustment meeting that it would be registered on title. But Megan, perhaps you can correct me if I have this wrong. But if it's registered on title, when the property flips, it's possible for township staff to miss what's on title. Whereas if it's as a zoning amendment, then it's solidified into our bylaw, and it won't be missed.
Yeah, that's correct. That is the way, because that way you're going to be able to, you're right, staff are not going to miss it. But I just thought, well, yes, it was, development agreements have been registered on title. Just
yeah. And do I have this correct, Megan?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, that is correct. So the development agreement would be registered on title and does run with the property. However, the development agreement and the zoning, when they differ, you end up with a conflict sometimes. So you've got 2 documents telling you what the setback is on a single property. And there's no requirement for the development agreement to be disclosed at the time of building. So it leaves a lot of onus on township staff to be aware of which agreements have been registered on title, or doing title searches to find that information prior to the issuance of the building permit. Where the zoning process is all a public process, such as this public meeting here as well. So for instance, had you gone with a development agreement, and let's say there was a member of the public who was upset with the proposed change, there's no appeal mechanism through a development agreement. So that's where the zoning is much more of a public process. It's more easily traced, and it does ensure that there's only one set of rules for a piece of property. So where we've seen in the past is a development agreement, let's say from the 90s, where the setback was only 20 meters. So you've got a development agreement registered on title for a 20-meter setback, and now you have a zoning bylaw telling you you've got a 30-meter setback. Which one takes precedent? So by going through the zoning, which is the proper planning channels, even though there's additional costs because it's a separate process, is much clearer and ensures that the provisions will be abided by on the property.
Madam
So,
Mayor, Bill
Madam
here.
Mayor,
I'm prepared to change my position and go to 50% in the matter of the fact that Christmas is coming and I want to get through this meeting.
Okay, Brett, your comment?
I'm prepared to amend accordingly to the $1,000 limit. I just want to say that, you know, yes, we're forcing them, but the Conservation Authority is forcing us. And I think that the method, even if it's more expensive, the idea was that it's providing more of a peace of mind and security to them and to people who may own that property in the future. But again, I think echoing Bill's statement, I'm prepared to revise the figure upward to $1,000 if Cindy's on board.
Cindy's thinking.
Cindy?
Well,
And Madam Mayor, if I could just a minor clarification. Rideau Valley didn't force us. They cannot force us to do anything. That was their strong recommendation. And then when we had the discussion at the Committee of Adjustment, as Megan mentioned, it was the far more efficient way to do it so that this wouldn't get lost in the paperwork, you know, in some future transaction. So that's why the Committee of Adjustment made this a condition, but it was the Committee of Adjustment who made this decision. We are the ones that forced the Rosnicks to go through this process.
Okay.
so Cindy had the floor before, if I may. Cindy had the floor before Vic cut her off. I would say that I agree with Bill and the rest of them that 1,000 is fine. Yeah. Now that I've heard both sides and all of the information, that yes, 1,000 agreeable.
Okay, so the last part of this motion, I'll just read it again. And further, that council agreed to rebate the applicant the amount of $1,000. That's what you're voting on.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Put your hands up so I can count. Sherry, how about you?
I am in favor of that motion, yes.
Okay, motion's carried unanimously. All right, let's move on. We have a motion moved by Sherry and seconded by Bill. Whereas pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, the Council of a Municipality may enact bylaws regulating the use of lands and the erection of buildings and structures thereon. And whereas the Council of the Township Central Frontenac considered all written and oral submissions received on this application, the effect of which helped Council make an informed decision. Therefore, be it resolved that Council received the zoning bylaw amendment application ZB 0420 Nolan Furlong, public meeting and amending bylaw report. And further, that the Council consider the amending bylaw under agenda item bylaws and agreements. And further, the Council agreed to rebate the applicant the amount of, and it's blank. Do we put $1,000 in there again? Bill?
Yes, I agree with that because this zoning bylaw was actually going on to all of the property when this, in actual fact, there was two pieces of this property when the zoning change was going through. It act to happen because the other one was waterfront, if I recall correctly, and the discussion went, why are we doing this? Well, it's to make it the same as the other lot. So.
Okay, so, and further, the Council
Madam Mayor,
to
if I
rebate
may?
the amount of 1,000, yes.
Yeah, this was a very similar situation to the previous one, where it was the Committee of Adjustment really that forced these folks to do this.
Okay, so the same amount of money, $1,000. No further discussion, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay. This one is moved by Victor and seconded by Cindy. Whereas Section 9 in the procedural bylaw states that council meetings shall generally be held in the Soldiers Memorial Hall, Charlotte Lake, on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, commencing at 4 p.m. And whereas during the months of July, August, and December, council will meet on the second Tuesday of each month only, summer and Christmas schedule. And whereas it's recommended by the CAO clerk that we suspend the rules of the procedural bylaw to add a second regular council meeting in December, on Tuesday, December 22nd at 4 p.m. It just makes sense, since we're doing Zoom, that we do one more and not end up with 3 pages of an agenda in January.
Well, and I think with the staff as well, because the amount of reports that we're going to do to finalize things coming before the year end, that we thought it only makes sense that instead of trying to cram everything on December the 8th meeting, and you're correct, and then going into a new year. So it makes sense to do another one in December.
Well, Madam Mayor, it'll also give me an opportunity to send Victor his virtual Christmas gift.
There you go. Okay.
After the recent discussion, is that going to be a lump of coal?
Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Just making us work hard, eh? Okay, this one is moved by Tom and seconded by Sherry. The council received this report entitled Potential Partnerships for LiDAR Acquisition as prepared by the CAO clerk for information. And whereas staff attended a virtual meeting hosted by the Cataraqui, Rideau Valley, Mississippi Valley, and Quinte Conservation Authorities on a potential partnership for LiDAR acquisition. And whereas this project will benefit Central Frontenac's departments, and the approximate cost would be $41,952 based on $100 per square kilometer. At the high end, while the low end may cost $25,482 based on $70 a square kilometer, which will be dependent on the number of partners. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council supports the LiDAR project and authorizes the clerk to send a letter confirming our interest in participating in this project. And further, that the treasurer be authorized to set aside the maximum amount of $41,952 in the 2021 budget, with further details to be provided during budget deliberations. And that staff be authorized to work with the conservation authorities in their application to the National Disaster Mitigation Program. Discussion. Bill.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, I have questions in regard to this program. How will this program, if it will, I don't know, I'm just asking a question. Will individual landowners benefit by us having this program, for example, in buying or selling or looking at prospective properties that you might want to, subdivide or whatever? Will this program help? And will the Land Registry Office recognize information that's produced by this program? So perhaps somebody can answer those questions.
Okay, unfortunately, I'm not unable to answer those questions. Bill, is the fact that all those details are not. It's a lot like the drape that we have now, where the county has the layers and controls the layers. It's exactly the same, which ends up coming on our mapping program. How that's going to roll out to individual properties, I'm not sure, but it will be beneficial for us, for public works, all the planning, with the county. So there's more things I think to come down with this.
Okay, I look forward to seeing it.
Madam Mayor, I'm not aware that this would be anything that would be imported into the Land Registry Office system. They don't get involved in any sort of topographical type mapping or zoning type of information. It's purely reference plans and survey information that the Land Registry involves itself with.
But follow up, Madam Mayor, would individual landowners have access to information on their own land through the municipal office if this program was in place?
That has not been confirmed yet. I mean, right now they can with, when we have it under our mapping program, but that has not been confirmed yet.
Okay, thank you.
But I think where it could be used, if I wanted to sever 100 acres of land and I'm working with the land planning group, they can show me a picture of where the wet spots are and the different elevations of my property as to whether or not I could sever and get some building lots on that 100 acres. I think that's where it will be very useful.
Yes, and it also will be useful for floodplain mapping. I think that's the biggest part right now. I think this is what's spearheading this, is to deal with the floodplain mapping. And also with other projects, I know with public works, you know, culverts, different, you know, drains, municipal drains, there's all kinds of things, but it sounds like it's a good program. So, and sorry that it was so late getting it. We just had the call yesterday, and they were looking for us to send a letter for council to their interest by Monday, November the 30th. So that's why it's so late.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead, Victor.
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just want to let everyone know, like, the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority uses the LiDAR for floodplain mapping, and it's very effective. And if you went through the details there, it is far more precise than the drape imaging. So it seems like a fairly expensive toy, but I think as we get more and more comfortable with the data that we get from it, we will find more and more uses for it. So I would support being a part of this program.
The other thing I too want to mention, when you talk about dollars, we had to put something in there for the dollars, is what they're proposing at this point. If more partners buy into it, it would be less. The other thing I think that I mentioned yesterday on the meeting, it's Kevin Farrell from the county was on as well. This might be something that the Frontenacs might want to talk to the county about and have the county purchase it, like they do right now with drape, and then we pay our fair share into that. So that might be an option as well. So it may not come out of our specific dollars, but through maybe, you know, our normal county levy or something.
Okay. Okay, if there's no more discussion, all those in favor of the motion? Sherry, how about you?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay, motion's carried. Okay, next we have committee reports moved by Bill.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, you have a resolution. I don't think you've got it there because it's a late one. It's to deal with the deeming bylaw, and we'll ask Cindy. She prepared this report.
And I wanted to apologize to council for the lateness of this. I had prepared this report, but it missed getting in the agenda package. It's just the explanatory reasons as to why I put forth the deeming bylaw later in the agenda package. So I'll just quickly sort of go through the report because I know nobody's had a chance to read it yet, but we had 2 road closings applications for same subdivision plan, which is an old plan off of Black Lake. Old subdivision plans that have no subdivision agreement, and a lot of the infrastructure of the subdivision agreement isn't located on the actual subdivision lots per se, and the roads aren't publicly maintained roads. In order to have the lot additions merge with the subdivision lots, we have to deregister the subdivision lots so they're not lots on a plan of subdivision. Otherwise, they could always treat the subdivision lots as separate lots. So this is a tool that, and Megan can correct me if I'm wrong, but tools that the planners use in order to be assured that those lots will merge with the lot addition lands. So that was the purpose of the report and the reasoning for the deeming bylaw later in the agenda package.
Okay, Madam Mayor, and I don't think you have the actual motion, so I can.
I don't. So do you want to read it?
Okay. Moved by Tom and seconded by Victor that council receive this report entitled Lots 3 and 8, Plan 1113, Deeming Bylaw Recommendation Report, as prepared by the Deputy Clerk. And further, that council pass a deeming bylaw pursuant to Section 54 of the Planning Act later in the meeting, so as to deem lots 3 and 8 on Plan 1113 not being registered lots within a plan of subdivision.
Okay.
So all those
Any
in favor?
discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. All right. something new every day, eh? Okay, now we are at the committees and reports. So moved by Bill, seconded by Nikki. Whereas the province has introduced Bill 229, Protect, Support, and Recover from COVID-19 Act, Schedule 6, Conservation Authorities Act. Whereas the legislation introduces a number of changes and new sections that could remove and or significantly hinder the Conservation Authority's role in regulating development, permit appeal process, and engaging in review and appeal of planning applications. Whereas we rely on the watershed expertise provided by local conservation authorities to protect residents, property, and local natural resources on a watershed basis by regulating development and engaging in reviews of applications submitted under the Planning Act. Whereas the changes allow the minister to make decisions without CA watershed data and expertise, whereas the legislation suggests that the minister will have the ability to establish standards and requirements for non-mandatory programs which are negotiated between the conservation authorities and municipalities to meet local watershed needs. Whereas municipalities believe that the appointment of municipal representatives on the CA board should be a municipal decision, and the chair and vice chair of the CA board should be duly elected. Whereas the changes to the duty of members contradicts the fiduciary, I've got a thing in front of that word, fiduciary
Duty.
responsibility, duty
Just
of
duty.
the CA board member to represent the best interests of the Conservation Authority and its responsibility to the watershed. Whereas conservation authorities have already been working with the province, development sector, and municipalities to streamline and speed up permitting and planning approval through Conservation Ontario's Client Service and Streaming Initiative, whereas changes to the legislation will create more red tape and costs for the conservation authorities and their municipal partners and potentially result in delays in the development approval process. And whereas municipalities value and rely on the natural habitats and water resources within our jurisdiction for the health and well-being of residents, municipalities value the conservation authorities' work to prevent and manage the impacts of flooding and other natural hazards, and municipalities value the conservation authorities' work to ensure safe drinking water. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Province of Ontario repeal Section 6 of the Budget Measures Act, Bill 229, that the province continue to work with conservation authorities to find workable solutions to reduce red tape and create conditions for growth, that the province respect the current conservation authority/municipal relationships, and that the province embrace their longstanding partnership with the conservation authorities and provide them with the tools and financial resources they need to effectively implement their watershed management role. And don't ask me to read it a second time. Bill.
I am fully in support of this motion, through you, Madam Mayor, and it concerns me greatly with the move to actually have the boards of directors on the conservation authorities be made up of strictly of elected councillors. I think we'd be completely missing the boat on the valuable input that a lot of the appointed members from the various communities actually contribute to the conservation authority, when in actual fact, we may have a council, maybe somebody's hiding something, but I don't think there's anybody on our council that has a tremendous amount of environmental expertise in which they could contribute to any kind of discussion. And if you're going to have all of your decisions at the Conservation Authority be made strictly on the dollars and cents of what those programs are going to cost, I think it would be the detriment of the ideals of the Conservation Authority. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Victor?
Madam Mayor? As everyone knows, I'm the board member or the municipal rep for Rideau Valley. One of the issues that we are going to face is because Ottawa is such a big part of the Rideau Valley, and like population-wise, each municipality gets one rep, except Ottawa, which gets 5 reps. So right now, the situation is we have one municipal councillor on the council or on the board, and we have 4 citizen reps, and they have to go through a real rigorous process to even get on, and they add a lot of value. If this gets changed, we're going to have 5 councillors, and they're not going to show up to the meetings. So this is really going to handcuff the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. as well as many of the other things that is in Bill 229. I mean, this is a disaster. One thing I would like to ask, though, is if we can amend the resolution and have it sent to the Premier and the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, and to, this was initiated by Quinty, and if we could send it also to the other two conservation authorities that are a part of Central Frontenac. Thank you.
Okay, Cindy, did you get that down?
It's not, wasn't added to the motion, but can that just not be a staff direction to send it to all those folks that we normally send to?
Yeah, we can do that.
There's no sense passing a motion that we're just going to leave in our book.
No, that's correct. Yeah, so Cindy's got that written down there, so then we can make sure we can send it off for sure.
And just to confirm, that was to the Premier, the Ministry of the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, and the other two CAs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Okay, if there's no further comments, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Sherry, if you're opposed, you speak up. How's that?
That sounds good, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right, we have a motion moved by Brent and seconded by Bill that council received the following correspondence, and it's number 1 to 10 in your package. Any discussion? All those in favor? Hands up. Motion's carried. Okay, moved by Cindy and seconded by Tom. That bylaw 2020-56 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2011-52 zoning bylaw as amended be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 24th day of November 2020. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
On my agenda, we have a section B in communications, so correspondence requiring action for Quinty West.
Sorry, that one sort of, I apologize because I have it down as my note to have that scratched because it's basically the same as what we already went through, that council already read.
Good.
Okay, I was going to say I don't have a motion for it.
Nope.
Okay, moved by Cindy and seconded by Tom. Did I just do that one?
You've got another one. This is another bylaw.
You got 2020-57.
Am I at 22 or 23?
You're on number 24.
24, okay. Can't get it up there. All right, number 24.
Yeah, you have Cindy and Tom did 23, so.
Okay, moved by Sherry and Nikki. That bylaw 2020-58 being a bylaw to authorize the clerk and mayor to sign a lease agreement with Fisheries and Oceans Canada, Small Crafts Harbor Branch, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 24th day of November 2020. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Madam Mayor, I think we did skip 57.
That's right.
Bylaw 57, 2020-57. That's the Nolan and Furlong.
Oh, because
number 20.
Because I have it
Number
down that
22.
yes, I have that Cindy and Tom.
That was 22. Number 22.
Number 22 was the correspondence. Number 23 was 2020-56 bylaw. It doesn't have any names on it. And then number 24 is 2020-57 zoning bylaw.
I've got
one
23.
we have not read.
I've got 23 is 57. And 24 is 58.
No, because the numbers have changed, Fran. So you have, it should be number 23 is, the 22 is the communications and correspondence. 23 is bylaw 2020-56, which would be the, I don't know which one it's
57.
for. And then 2020-57 is resolution number 24.
That's the one that we haven't dealt with yet.
That's the one she just did, Sherry and Nikki. Yeah.
All
Moved and
right.
seconded.
So my numbers are all different. So is that number 58?
No, this is 57. You just had Sherry and Nikki. They
Okay.
moved and seconded for bylaw 2020-57. And you
So that's the
you
one we're
also
doing
asked,
right now.
and you asked, yes, and you just have to ask for the vote.
Okay. All those in favor? That get me out of these bylaws. Motion
Yes.
carried.
Perfect.
All right. So
Now you've got number 25.
not on my list, I don't. I have
No.
moved by Sherry and seconded by Nikki that bylaw 2020-58, being a bylaw to authorize the clerk and mayor to sign a lease agreement with Fisheries and Oceans, Small Crafts Harbor Branch to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed 24th day of November 2020. All those in favor? Carried.
It's because we slipped that other motion in, Madam Mayor. That's why they're outnumbered.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got.
Now you're number 26.
Brent and Tom, that bylaw 2020-59 being a bylaw to designate a plan of subdivision or a part thereof not to be a registered plan of subdivision for the purposes of section 5350 brackets 3 of the Planning Act be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 24th day of November 2020. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next, I have Bill and Nikki. Whereas Council passed Resolution 257-2020 on July the 14th, 2020, approving the recommendation to close this road allowance, and whereas the appraisal has now been completed and the purchase price confirmed, and whereas the bylaw deeming Lot 3 Plan 1113 not to be a lot on a plan of subdivision was passed earlier in the meeting. Now, therefore, be it resolved that bylaw 2020-60, being a bylaw to permanently close, declare, surplus, and sell part of a highway, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 24th day of November 2020. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay.
Now we have, let's see.
Move into sessions, what I've got, closed session, but.
No, we have number 15. We have just, it's information for you, new and other business. Just wanted to let council know that the North Frontenac Little Theater applied to the Kingston Community Foundation for a grant in the amount of $14,500 to help towards the, putting their lights up and the renovations at the Soldiers Memorial Hall, and wanted to let you know that they were approved that grant for the 14.5. The next one was with the Muck Committee. The Muck Committee also had applied to the Community Foundation for Kingston area, and they also applied for a grant in the amount of $5,000 for the purchase of the heritage benches and waste receptacles, and they were successful in their grant as well. So that's just information for council.
Okay. All right, so where are we now?
Now we are going into closed session.
Okay.
But you have to read the first resolution to move in.
Okay, yep. Moved by Cindy and seconded by Bill. That council move into closed session to discuss, number 1, labor relations or employee negotiations pursuant to section 239(2)(d). Number 2, the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board pursuant to section 239(2)(c). So close out of this meeting and then go into the closed session meeting, and then we have to come back in to open again. And Cindy, you'll send us the close or the next open. Is that right?
Yes,
or Megan?
No, the two invites have come from already. You should already have them for the closed session, and then there's the regular council meeting following closed session. They're through the clerk's department through WebEx. So okay. Megan is now off the hook. Oh, but she's got her hand up.
So to
Go ahead,
confirm,
Megan.
are you returning to this open session meeting like we normally do with county council, or am I ending this meeting as a whole?
You can end this meeting as a whole. We'll come back through through WebEx. So you're
Perfect.
Yeah.
good. Thank you, Megan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have to
see
vote on the
everyone in
motion.
closed session.
We have to vote on
Oh,
that.
sorry. All those in favor of that motion? Getting tired, I think. Carrie. Okay. We're going into close. We will see you on the other side.